The Awakening, the Revised Edition, by Lilac Moon. Chapter 9, The Imperial Hand. Padme stared out of the window of her office, as Coruscant's city skyline was lit with explosions that could be seen just above the planet's surface. The war had finally reached as far into the core as Coruscant. But all Padme could think about was the reality that, with it, her husband would return to her at last, ending what had been thus far their longest separation. While it had been 6 months since they had been together, it had been nearly a year and a half since the Second Battle of Geonosis, a total of almost 3 years since they had been married and the war had begun. Now that he was so close to Coruscant again, she just had to pray for his safe return. She would pray for the safeties of the others as well, but mostly for his. As selfish as it seemed, she had waited long enough, and she needed him. More than ever. Those were her thoughts as she put her hand on her belly and continued to gaze out of the window. As Anakin exited hyperspace as his personal starfighter with Obi-Wan right behind him, he observed the dogfight before him. While he no longer thirsted for battle, flying still excited him. And Grievous had gone too far this time. Anakin was not referring to the kidnapping of Chancellor Palpatine either, though it was being considered a travesty. He, like his wife, was no longer a supporter of him. Many of Palpatine's policies and actions had only prolonged the war. Since Palpatine no longer seemed fond of him after the war had begun, it had allowed Anakin to begin to see the politician for who he truly was. And Padme was glad his once misplaced affection for the elderly man no longer clouded his vision. No, Palpatine's predicament did not concern Anakin much. He would do his duty as a Jedi and rescue the Republic's corrupted leader. But it was the proximity of the battle that concerned Anakin the most. It was far too close to Padme for his comfort. And he was suddenly also glad that Ahsoka was not accompanying him on this one. She was safe in the temple, and right now, it was time for Grievous to be stopped once and for all. He turned his primary focus to the battle, as he heard R2 whirl at him, as the faithful little droid interfaced with the weapon system. He had already located Grievous's ship in the fray of the battle. "Log on to him, R2, Anakin ordered, as he opened his comm channel. "Master, General Grievous's ship is dead ahead. The one crawling with vulture droids," Anakin reported. "Oh, I see. This is going to be easy," Obi-Wan said, sarcasm dripping from his voice. Then Obi-Wan ordered the clone troops to move in to attack the position. They complied, moving in behind him. Anakin smirked. "This is where the fun begins," he said as the vulture droids headed directly towards him. "Let them pass between us," Obi-Wan ordered. Anakin became very concerned as several clone troopers were killed. "I'm going to go help them," Anakin announced. No, they are doing their job so we can do ours," Obi-Wan replied. Anakin complied as droids then released missiles. "Missiles! Pull up!" Anakin called. "They shot over us," Obi-Wan informed. "They're coming around," Anakin announced, R4 beeping in, taking in the controls. No, R4, nothing too fancy," Obi-Wan grimaced as his ship lurched. "Surge all power units! Stand by! Reverse thrusters!" Anakin ordered. Anakin grinned as his ship began to spiral, causing the missiles to mimic their behavior. The missiles collided and exploded. Anakin chuckled as he heard R2's response. "Good work, buddy," Anakin told the droid. Obi-Wan was becoming frustrated as he took manual control of the ship. He was still trying to shake the missiles. "Flying is for droids," Obi-Wan complained. The older Jedi was hit, and a number of droids latched onto his ship. "Buzz droids!" Anakin exclaimed. Obi-Wan looked on, worried as the buzz droids began tearing up the ship. "R4, be careful!" Obi-Wan stopped as he saw one droid tear off R4's dome. "Oh dear," Obi-Wan lamented. The droids continued to tear holes in his ships. "They're shutting down all the controls," Obi-Wan called. "Move to the right so I can get a clear shot." Anakin responded. "The mission! Get to the command ship!" Obi-Wan ordered. but Anakin's resolve only hardened as he plunged forward, taking pot shots at the droids. Unfortunately, he accidentally shot off one of the wings. "What in the name of?" Obi-Wan yelled as his ship lurched hard. Anakin winced hard. "Hold your fire! You're not helping!" Obi-Wan yelled. "I agree, but I did." Anakin replied. "I can't see a thing!" Obi-Wan complained as his windows were fogged over by the droids. "Move to the right!" Anakin said as he tried to bump the droids off with the wing of his ship. "Hold on, Anakin! You're going to get us both killed! Get out of here! There is nothing you can do!" Obi-Wan yelled at him. "I'm not leaving without you, Master!" Anakin called back. Anakin knocked out more droids, but one made it onto Anakin's ship, immediately heading for R2. "Get him, R2!" Anakin told his faithful droid. R2 zapped it. "Watch out!" Anakin instructed. "R2! Hit the boss droid, center eye!" R2 did so, successfully destroying the droid. It slipped harmlessly off the hull of Anakin's ship. Anakin laughed in victory. "Yeah, you got him!" Anakin said. "The General's command ship is dead ahead," Anakin stated. "Well, have you noticed that the shields are still up?" Obi-Wan yelled. Anakin winced again. "Sorry, Master," Anakin apologized. As he circled around, he shot laser blasts at the control panel, deactivating the shields. "Oh, I have a bad feeling about this," Obi-Wan called, as the metal ceiling doors began to slide shut. The two Jedi starfighters made it inside just in time. Upon landing, Obi-Wan flipped out, lightsaber activated, and began taking out droids. Anakin quickly followed him, and the two successfully took out the droids. "R2, locate the Chancellor," Obi-Wan ordered. R2 brought up a hologram design of the ship. "The Chancellor's signal is coming from up on the observation platform at the top of the spire." Obi-Wan pointed. "I sense Count Dooku," Anakin mentioned. "And I sense a trap," Obi-Wan replied. "Next move," Anakin smirked. Obi-Wan smirked back. "Spring the trap." Obi-Wan smiled. R2 chirped at them. "R2, go back. I need you to stay with the ship," Anakin ordered. "Here, take this," Obi-Wan said, tossing the comlink to him. "Wait for orders," Obi-Wan said. As Anakin and Obi-Wan headed for the turbo lift, destroyers approached. Anakin and Obi-Wan called forth their lightsabers. The two Jedi deflected their blasts and entered the turbo lift. The turbo lift happened to be filled with battle droids. "Drop your weapons!" "I said drop 'em!" the droid said mechanically. The two Jedi glanced at each other before proceeding to chop the droids to pieces. Suddenly the turbo lift stopped. "Did you press the stop button?" Obi-Wan asked. "No, did you?" Anakin responded. "No," Obi-Wan answered. "Well, there's more than one way up," Anakin said as he ignited his saber and cut a hole in the top. "We don't want to get out. We want to get moving. R2, activate elevator 31174. Obi-Wan ordered. Backing the docking bay, R2 slipped further into the corner and tried to muffle the comlink, hoping that the other search droids would ignore him. When Anakin finished cutting a hole out of the top, he force jumped out and onto the top of the lift. "Always on the move," Obi-Wan quipped. Suddenly the turbo lift jolted and began descending rapidly. Anakin jumped and held the side of the platform tightly, feet dangling. "R2, stop! We need to be going up!" Obi-Wan called. Anakin looked down, but suddenly he heard a voice. "Hands up, Jedi!" the droid said, pointing his blaster at him. R2 positioned himself out the controls and locked in, reversing the course of the turbo lift. As the turbo lift ascended, Anakin flipped and jumped back onto the lift and dropped through the opening he had made. He landed with a thump, causing Obi-Wan to ignite his saber. He quickly extinguished it, realizing who it was. "There you are," Obi-Wan said. "What was all that about?" Anakin asked. "Well, R2," Obi-Wan started, but Anakin cut him off. "No loose wire jokes," Anakin said. "Did I say anything?" Obi-Wan replied. "He's trying," Anakin insisted. "I didn't say anything," Obi-Wan insisted. As they exited the turbo lift and rounded the corner, they ran into Grievous. There, along with his droid commanders, was his captive, Jedi Master Shaak Ti. "Shaak Ti," Obi-Wan said. "I'm sorry, Obi-Wan. I failed." Shaak Ti replied. General Kenobi! Oh! We've been waiting for you! Grievous rasped, as he bent down behind Shakti. He ignited his saber, plunging it through her chest. Stinking Jedi! Grievous laughed as she fell to the floor in a heap. Dead. Obi-Wan and Anakin ignited their sabers. Droids ascended upon them, and they extinguished their sabers. That was a big... Anakin started, his stormy blue eyes locking on Grievous. Shakti had always been very fond of him. Indeed, she had always been someone with a kind, comforting words for him, especially during his earliest days at the temple. Mistake, Obi-Wan finished. Grievous coughed and laughed evilly. Tragic end for the gallant warrior. Grievous rasped. Obi-Wan watched Anakin as he brushed his fingers along the side of his face. Rescue, Anakin, not mayhem, Obi-Wan answered. I look forward to adding your lightsabers to my collection, Grievous rasped. Anakin brushed his fingers over his lips. No, Obi-Wan answered. Anakin gave him a withering glance. This is not the time to argue, Anakin replied. Might I recommend? Obi-Wan asked as he tugged at his ear. Anakin scoffed. There's far too many of them for that. Anakin disagreed. Anakin brushed his fingers along his eyebrow and looked down. Oh yes, Obi-Wan answered. Obi-Wan and Anakin ignited their sabers and cut a hole in the floor underneath their feet. The two Jedi fell through to the deck below and into the fuel tank. The fuel tank is ruptured! Hurry, seal off the bulkhead! Grievous ordered his droids. The two Jedi rushed onto the command bridge and off the top spire, where Chancellor Palpatine sat restrained to the command chair. Chancellor Palpatine, Obi-Wan said as he and Anakin bowed respectively. I trust you are unhurt? Obi-Wan asked. The Chancellor nodded as Anakin snapped the restraints open. He didn't acknowledge his question. Count Dooku, he stated gravely, as the Count entered the bridge from the balcony. The illustrious leader of the Separatists had been quite elusive during the last year, and it begged the question as to why his master had him working on behind the scenes. But Anakin could never, in his most horrible nightmares, predict what Dooku had been up to. The Count flipped over the railing and landed solidly on his feet, before striding calmly towards the two Jedi Knights. Surrender your weapons, please. I don't want to make a spectacle in front of the Chancellor, Dooku stated. He is a Sith Lord. You are no match for him, the Chancellor said in a frightened tone. Chancellor Palpatine, Sith Lords are our specialty, Obi-Wan stated, as he and Anakin shed their cloaks. Right or left? Obi-Wan asked his former Padawan. I always take the right, Anakin said as he walked around his master. This time, we take them together, Obi-Wan instructed. Of course, Anakin replied, as Dooku ignited his crimson saber. The two Jedi were next, as battle erupted between them. The two Jedi sabers came up and slammed down on Dooku's, who held his ground soundly. Furiously and almost faster than the naked eye could move, the three combatant sabers moved in a furious battle. Dooku kicked Anakin's legs out from underneath him and force pushed him away, taking on Obi-Wan alone. Obi-Wan's saber locked with the Sith's as they fought for control. Dooku snarled as he swiped his saber around. Obi-Wan parried and then was unable to block Dooku's surprise blast of Force lightning. It seared through Obi-Wan painfully. Dooku picked him up and force pushed him into the wall. The Jedi hit painfully on his back and then fell face first to the floor. Reaching into the Force, Dooku released the clamps holding the durasteel platform above him in place. The heavy slab landed on Obi-Wan's legs, pinning him underneath. Anakin roared out a battle cry as he leapt to his feet and engaged the Sith again. Anakin thrust his saber at Dooku and he parried. Anakin spun and met his saber in a high arc above their heads. Well, young Skywalker, your skills have grown by leaps and bounds, Dooku said. I've grown stronger only to stop your evil from further infecting the galaxy, Anakin replied as Dooku charged at him again. Anakin parried each of his furious slashes before going on the offensive and whipping his saber around. He sliced through Dooku's forearms and his crimson saber clattered to the floor. You're under arrest, Count Dooku. Surrender. Anakin said, as his azure blade hummed at the Count's throat. Good, Anakin. Kill him, Palpatine said, but Anakin ignored the Chancellor. Yes, Anakin. Kill me, Dooku baited. He is unarmed, Chancellor, and I will take him into custody. The Senate will decide his fate, Anakin stated, as he picked up a pair of manacles that the Duke had on the bridge, probably originally intended for him or Obi-Wan, and placed them around the Duke's forearms. You'll pay for taking my hands when I'll take your head, boy, Dooku snarled. Anakin ignored him, and once he was secured, he lifted the durasteel platform off of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, wake up, Anakin said as he shook him. Come on, Master. Don't make me carry you. Again, Anakin joked as Obi-Wan started to come round. Oh, I feel like a Gondok ran me over. Again, Obi-Wan grumbled as Anakin helped him to his feet. As he got his bearings, he saw that Anakin had arrested Dooku. Well, finally the illustrious Count Dooku has been captured. I will enjoy seeing him behind plasma at last, Obi-Wan said smugly. So will I, and I'm looking forward to seeing that Grievous ends up in a scrap heap, Anakin added. We definitely concur there. This way, Count, Obi-Wan said, ushering him to the lift. You'll not succeed, Jedi, Dooku replied. Keep moving, old man. We have a droid general to capture, and there's a tiny cell waiting for you in the Jedi Temple, Anakin said, as he ushered the Chancellor forward and allowed him onto the lift. Grievous clenched his metal fist as he watched one of the elevators slowly ascend to his level on the control panel. He would let the Jedi slime almost reach him, before he would capture and kill them, along with the Chancellor. And then there was Count Dooku as well. Skywalker had not killed him, and he had strict orders from the Master to make sure he was eliminated if Skywalker failed to do it. And Grievous looked forward to slaying his Master's apprentice. His time was up. They eventually made it to the General's level, and began sprinting towards the command bridge, where Grievous was. Suddenly the blue shields surrounded them, and they stopped. Ray shields, Anakin said. Wait a minute. How did this happen? We're smarter than this, Obi-Wan said, and Anakin scoffed. Apparently not, Anakin replied sarcastically. I say patience, Anakin said. Obi-Wan looked at him as if he had grown bantha rays. Patience? Obi-Wan questioned his former and notoriously impatient apprentice. Yes, R2 will be along any minute and he'll release the ray shields, Anakin replied. As if on cue, R2 came sailing into the hall, letting loose an electric shrill as he slammed against the wall. See? No problem, Anakin replied with a smirk. Don't move, one of the droid guards told him. R2 zapped him with his plasma ray, but another just kicked him over. Anakin sighed. Do you have a plan B? Obi-Wan asked. Anakin gave him an annoyed look. Hands up, Jedi, the droid said as they placed stun cuffs on the two Jedi and the Chancellor, before leading them to the command bridge. Grievous snarled and coughed as he spotted the two Jedi. So we meet again, Jedi scum, Grievous said. Good work, General. Release me now, Dooku ordered. Grievous tried to laugh, but it came out as a heavy cough. Sorry, Count, but your usefulness has run its course. And since the hero with no fear couldn't finish the job, I will, Grievous rasped as he thrust his blade through the Count's heart. Pain and shock registered on the elderly man's face as he slowly slumped to the cold floor and drew his final breath. Count Dooku was dead. Now, Jedi scum, it's your turn to meet the same fate, Grievous said. Oh, I don't think so. And this time, you won't escape, Obi-Wan said with determination. Anakin smirked and nodded to R2. Now, R2, he called. The little droid squealed and let loose everything he had in his arsenal, creative and effective as distraction, snapping the restraints on the Jedi with his plasma ray. The two Jedi called their lightsabers to their hands and stood ready to face Grievous. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Okay, so Dooku's dead, but not by Anakin's hand, showing his pull away from the dark side, which I like very much. I hope you guys liked how I did Grievous's voice, and I tried to make the droid's voices sound tinny, though it probably came out as a bad accent knowing me. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.